issue is that let's talk about the asymmetry argument, that there's more suffering in life than there is good. The problem with that is that that the only way that you can derive that conclusion from the data, so to speak, is to weight the data a priori so that the suffering mathematically or arithmetically is seen to be of higher magnitude than the good. And since there's no way of assigning a weighting to the suffering or the pleasure, let's say, that isn't arbitrary, if you start with your conclusion, which is that life is a phenomena that should never exist, all you have to do is work backwards from that conclusion and set the weightings properly, and then your premises can justify your conclusion. And that's a logical flaw that I saw permeating David's book on antinatalism. And it's you could think about it as a social scientist, is that, well, you have to set your weighting systems up, because I could say with perfect justification that one episode of romantic bliss is such that it outweighs all the suffering that I've ever encountered in my entire life. And there's no way of disproving that. I'm not saying that that's a valid claim, but there's no way of disproving that claim because the weighting system is arbitrary. So you can't make the case that there's an asymmetry without defining the asymmetry as extant to begin with. And well, that's one, but I'll let David respond to that. But I have a variety of other objections as well. So
I don't think that's true. First of all, I've pointed out different asymmetries. The one is the axiological asymmetry, which I described. That's where we assign different values to the presence and absence of good things and bad things. But I've also referred, although not in that particular book, to empirical asymmetries between good and bad. And there I suggest that the bad things, as a matter of empirical fact, outweigh the good things in life. And I give some examples which I think will speak against somebody just asserting things to the contrary. It's specifically not a priori, it's a posteriori. It's a result of our experience of the world. So if you think, for example, about pains and pleasure, if you think about how bad the worst pains are, they're much worse than the best pleasures are good. And we can test this with people. It may not be ethical to do so, but we could test it. We could offer people exchanges. We could say, we will give you 5 minutes or 10 minutes of the most sublime pleasure if you're willing to endure 2 or 3 minutes of the worst pains possible. That's not a deal that I think most rational people are going to take.